Hi everybody, welcome back to another Algebra 1 tutorial. In this video we'll be going over solving absolute value equations, rates, ratios, and proportions. So what is an absolute value? So the absolute value of a number is the distance of it from the number line. For example, the absolute value of 4 is negative 4 and 4. To visualize, look at this number line. So what two numbers have a distance of 4 from 0? Well, negative 4 and 4 do. Since you have to add 4 to get to 0 from negative 4, and you have to subtract 4 from 4 to get to 0. So absolute values are usually written like such. So let's solve a problem with absolute values. So suppose we have 3 times x is equal to 9. To solve this, we can use similar properties like we could with brackets. We can divide both sides by 3 to get absolute value of x is equal to 3. And since we know what an absolute value is, we can say that x is equal to negative 3 and 3. So we also will encounter a few problems like this. So to solve these problems, we might think that we could just add 5 to both sides and get x as 10 and get the absolute value of x as 10 and say x is equal to negative 10 and 10. But no, since it is included in the absolute value bracket, we could use a different method. So we could take this absolute value bracket and put it here, and we could get x minus 5 is equal to 5 and negative 5. And now that we have that, we can solve normally to get x as 10 and x as 0. And that would be our two values. Now look at a problem which involves fractions. Suppose you have 2x over 3. Now suppose you have 2x over 3 minus 2 by 3 is equal to 2 by 3. And you have all of these included in absolute value brackets. So you would solve this like we did with the previous problem. So now that you have this, we could solve normally to get 2x by 3 is equal to 2 by 3 plus 2 by 3, which is 4 by 3, and 0. And you could get x is equal to 0, and 4 by 3 times 3 by 2, which is 2. And those would be our two values for x, which work in this equation. So a ratio is a comparison of two quantities by division. So for example, you can have the ratio of A to B as A colon B. And a proportion is a ratio that are equal, is basically when you write two ratios which are equivalent in a fractional form. So suppose you have A by B and it is equivalent to C by D, then this is the proportion which would state that it's true. So ratios can also be applied to problems. So suppose we have a problem like this. So there are 100 chocolates and the ratio of dark to milk is 1 to 4. So to solve these problems, we want to get how many milk and dark chocolate is there. So to solve these problems, all we need to do is add up the two proportions. So 1 plus 4 is 5. And then we could just divide 100 by 5 to get 20, and then we could multiply it to either sides of the proportion to get d by m is equal to 20 times 1, which is 20, times 20 times 20 times 4, which is 80. And this would be a new proportion, which would hold true. So now let's look at rate. So rate is a ratio of two quantities with different units. So in the last problem, both of the quantities have the same units in chocolate. However, rates are usually written as unit rates. And unit rates usually have two different quantities, where the second quantity is usually written as only one unit. So rates are usually written like 20 centimeters per 2 seconds. It's usually not simplified. Whereas unit rates are usually written as 10 centimeters per second, which is the simplified form of the previous fraction. So you could basically think of unit rates as a simplified fraction. So what is dimensional analysis? So dimensional analysis is a process that uses rates to convert measurements from one unit to another. For example, 12 inches to 1 feet is an example of dimensional analysis. Or 100 centimeters to 1 meters is an example of dimensional analysis. What you need to remember is that in dimensional analysis, both the values written here are equal. So 100 centimeters and 1 centimeters are the same. They're just written in different units. And a conversion factor is the factor which can be used to multiply it from one unit to another. So for example, to get from 1 feet to 12 inches, you just need to multiply it times 12. And similarly, from 1 meter to 100 centimeters, you just need to multiply it by 100. And vice versa. So what are cross products? So cross products are basically two proportions which are equal. So for example, you have 2 over 3 and you have 4 over 6. Cross products basically means that you can multiply this side to this side. So you could get 12 is equal to 12 if you multiply 2 into 6 and 3 times 4. So you're basically making an X shape right above the equal sign to direct you to which direction you need to multiply. So suppose you look at it with variables, you could say A by B is equal to C by D. And B is equal to 0 and D is not equal to 0. And if these two values are not equal to 0, then this proportion is equal to each other. So now let's look at scale. So scale is a ratio of two sets of measurement, that is 1 centimeter and 10 centimeter and 10 meters. So what this basically means is, suppose you draw 1 centimeter wide as your drawing. Suppose this is your drawing and it's 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, then your scale drawing would be much bigger. It would instead be 10 meters by 10 meters, and that would be the correct scale. So think of this as a scale drawing, and think of this as the object, or scale drawing slash model. So now let's look at a few problems. So a person runs 20 meters in 5 seconds. Write the rate in meters per second. So we could write it like this. So 20 meters every 5 seconds, 1, 4, and we could write 4 meters per second, and that would be our answer. And for the next one, a scale drawing has a ratio of 1 centimeter to 550 meters. If the scale drawing is 5 centimeters, then how tall is the real object? So we would just do 5 times 1 over 50 times 5 to get 5 by 250, which basically means that this thing, if this is 5 centimeters, then this is 250 meters. So remember your units and make sure you have the right unit. So yeah, that's all for this video. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you next time. Bye.